here. Give me a second. Okay. 1 second. Hello, everybody. My name is Gidon Ariel, and I'm from Root Source, and I'm very excited to, 1 second. Very excited to try to initiate or continue a series called Conversations, or maybe there was another name that I forgot, in which I have a conversation with a lovely person. And right now I'm sitting with Dr. Richard Booker, or just Richard Booker, and we're going to talk a little bit. And just give me a second here to just paste something here. Just a second. There. Okay. So, hello, Richard. Can you hear me?
It's in the morning in Texas. So Boca Raton from Texas, from deep in the heart of Texas.
Okay, so
how are
Texas,
you? It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful behind you. I wish I was there.
Texas is also deep in the heart of me. I've been to Texas numerous times, and there's lovely, lovely people there.
Well, you have a beautiful setting behind you. Now, right behind me, you can't see out this window back here, is our chickens. So I go about a 2-minute walk out of my house here, and I gather the eggs from the hens each day. So we have free range organic eggs every day.
How many chickens do you got?
Oh, we have about 20 hens. And that's enough. That's enough to, they lay about 12 to 16 eggs every day, something like that.
How many people eat those eggs every day?
Well, we've given away a whole lot of them to friends and neighbors.
You know, my neighbor has some chickens, but I don't know if they get eggs, and I certainly don't know. But whatever, I'll ask them. Maybe. Mostly, I thought that they just raise them as pets.
Well, they do have a personality. Now, I'm a city boy. I didn't know all these things, but whenever Peggy, my wife, we go outside our garage here, and the garage door lifts up, they all run over to the side of the fence where we are because they know she's going to throw things over the fence to them. So she talks chicken talk to them. They seem to know what she's saying. I don't know. I think she and the chickens can communicate better than she and I can sometimes.
All right. We're all husbands. We know what you're talking about.
But Peggy and I have been married for 55 years, so I guess we're talking pretty good.
Maybe you've learned to talk like a chicken.
Well, I don't know. But it's a beautiful day, and it's wonderful to be alive today.
Amen. Let me introduce us. First of all, I'm Gidon Ariel of Root Source. Root Source is a platform for Orthodox Jews from Israel, mostly, to interact and engage with Christians, pro-Israel Christians from all over the world who want to engage with them. And primarily we do that on our website, root-source.com, with Israeli Jewish teachers, mostly in English, teaching topics and texts that there is a Christian audience who's interested in learning from them about, which is not too surprising after all, because what we teach is pretty much what Jesus taught 2,000 years ago or so. And we have about 1,000 lessons already recorded there, and we're hoping this year to grow, I don't know, exponentially this year, but significantly. But over the years, I can certainly speak for myself, our teachers, I can speak for myself, I have become more and more fond of the lovely Christian friends that I've met through Root Source. One of those friends is my relatively new friend, Richard Booker, who in preparation for today's meeting, we had an off camera, if you will. It's not really off camera, off broadcast, because it was on camera. Today, everything's on Zoom. We had an off broadcast preparatory meeting where we talked a little bit about stuff that we like talking about. Richard is an excellent conversationalist, as you've already heard, especially if you know chicken. But we're here in this program of conversations, just talk, and you all out there can both sit in. Certainly, if our program is recorded and you're watching this after it's been finished, like a fly on the wall. And if you have any questions or any things that you'd like to add, you won't be able to do them live because it's just one-on-one. But by all means, you can send us an email or leave a message on the comments, or you know how it goes in the 21st century. So Richard, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was raised in the South in the 50s, so I'm telling you how old I am. Born before the 50s, but raised as a kid in the 50s. And it was a wonderful time in America. The war was over.
You see, we already have a lot in common. You were raised in the 50s, and I'm in my 50s. So there you go.
Well, there you go. 50. Well, there's a 50-50 probability that we've met. So it was a wonderful time to be a young person in America. The war was over. In our view, the good guys won. Tyranny had been defeated at a high cost, of course. My dad had been a paratrooper in the war. Wow. in the South Pacific. And
how many times? Do you know how many times he actually acted on his training and parachuted in battle?
Well, my dad had hand-to-hand combat.
Wow.
In the South Pacific. He had a hole in his side where he was bayoneted.
Wow.
And he had his front teeth knocked out by the butt of a Japanese rifle.
Wow.
Person he was fighting. So he was a very tough man, and that's probably how he survived, with God's help, of course.
Yes.
But the 50s was a good time for a young person to be alive, because America had a certain innocence then, and there was people didn't have to all be godly or religious or Christian, whatever, but there was a moral consensus in America that held the country together. So
Father knows best.
Yes. So your neighbors, even though they may not be a religious person, they lived by the moral principles that held the country together. And people didn't have problems and concerns that we have in our world today. We played with our friends 3 or 4 blocks down the street, and nobody was concerned about that. And my parents knew that if I misbehaved, that my friends' parents would discipline me. So we all had the fear of parents. So we were raised.
Just 1 second, Richard. Everybody knows, love thou shalt honor thy father and their mother. That's the 10 Commandments. But I don't think as many people know. I'm pretty confident that there's another verse in the Bible, in the Torah, that says, "Ish imo v'aviv tirau." Every man must fear his mother and his father. Not only respect them and honor them, but fear them. So you guys knew that verse, I guess.
Well, we were more fearful. If we misbehaved in school, we had to go to the principal's office. But that was nothing compared to what was waiting for us when we got home.
the kids who are already going to watch this and hear that, they might say, "Oh my gosh, get that! You know, where are the cops? What is that? Corporal punishment? What is that? Ah, what? A belt? This is stuff that we all grew up with."
I
Well,
know. Well, we
I
had
was a good kid.
where I lived as a kid, there was a hedge around our yard.
Uh-huh.
And if I had really misbehaved badly, I'm sure I only did that a few times, but
You didn't need more than once or twice.
I would have to go pick my own switch from the hedge. Yes. And if it wasn't green enough, they would send me back and I would get a double portion of the blessing on my backside. And they always said, Gidon, they always said, now this is going to hurt me more than it does you.
Yeah.
I never did understand that. But it was all, of course, in love, all done in love. And so when I'm talking about fearing the parents, I'm talking about respect. Not the negative sense of that word, but respecting your parents.
Well, Chalzad, I'm a little younger than you, and I am a little bit more connected to modern sensitivities. So I would say that maybe not everybody really loved getting those switches, and who knows what happened afterwards. But whatever, let's not go there.
So anyway, that was how I was raised, and I went to college and got an MBA and started my career. And well, I met Peggy on a blind date on New Year's Eve, 57 years ago.
Wow.
It wasn't supposed to happen. She had a boyfriend she was waiting to hear from, who was out of town, and I had all my wisdom teeth pulled out. And back in those days, that was a major surgery.
Wow.
And this was just a few days earlier, before New Year's Eve. So I didn't even know if I could go meet this blind date girl.
Wow.
And she was 2 hours away. So, but anyway, the Almighty wanted that to happen. So against all odds, you've seen that movie series about Israel, Against All Odds, the miracles in Israel.
I don't know that if I've seen it, but I do know that I'm living it.
You are living it, and you should be in the video yourself. But against all odds, the Almighty let me and Peggy meet, and we've lived happily ever since.
Amen.
Now, I know you went to Israel as a boy at 14. How did that happen? Can you tell us that?
Sure.
I want to know about you and your family.
My pleasure. I was born in New York, and I was born in a not especially observant family, but in an Orthodox community.
I understand.
We were members of an Orthodox synagogue, and I went to an Orthodox day school. But in those days, we're talking about the 60s, 70s a little bit. You didn't have to be Orthodox to be Orthodox.
Okay, I understand.
Because Orthodox, they pretty much took who they would be able to get, because they suffered quite a blow during the early 20th century, and people moving from Jews mainly moved from Europe to the United States in the turn of the century, and they were told, here in America we do things differently.
Have you been to Ellis Island? I'm sure you have, right?
I think I have been, but it's been such a long time ago. I would love to go again.
It's an amazing place to see all the immigrants coming through Ellis Island. And one of the things that Peggy and I were there one time. We lived in New Jersey. Don't tell anybody that.
All right. Happens to the best of us.
And so one of the things we learned about Ellis Island, when the immigrants came, this would include the Jewish immigrants, they were kind of told, you have to be American now. So you change your name, you change the way you wear your hair if you're a woman, you change the way you dress. the way you handle yourself. And we discovered how desperate the immigrants were to be American, whatever
Right.
they were told that meant.
Right.
So many lost their old world identity
That's right.
and were so desperate to be accepted in the new world that they're coming to.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time of history, and again, as a son of, I'm the son of immigrants. My father was an immigrant, but my mother, her parents were immigrants. My father immigrated to the United States in the early 50s with his parents and sister.
Where did they come? Where did they come from?
Hungary.
Hungary.
That was after, and of course, that was after the Holocaust. They were Holocaust survivors. But my mother's parents came from Russia, I think White Russia, I'm not sure exactly where, around the turn of the century, like the 1910s or something like that, or maybe earlier. I think my grandfather came in the 1900 something, and my grandmother came a decade later or something like that. But the Lower East Side of New York City had millions of Jews coming from Europe in those decades. And that's my story. That is the majority of American Jews' story. So this is, I'm not a very good story. I'm not good at telling that story. That's not the story that I usually tell. But it is to me it's fascinating. Again, there was a book by a fellow by the name of, I don't remember his name. I think Howe something, Howe. His name, the name of the book was something like Our Crowd or The Way We Were, something like that. And a history of Jewish community of New York around the turn of the century and bringing in immigrants. Very fascinating. Now, I don't know how long your family's been in the United States. Do you know?
They came from Scotland and Ireland, Scotch-Irish background.
In what century, in what decades?
But my mother was 25% Cherokee, so
she never came.
I'm kind of a Native American to a certain degree, I guess.
So there you go.
I know. So I know that you made Aliyah when you were 14 by yourself. Well, how did you convince your parents to allow you to do this?
So yeah, you're better steer the conversation back to where it was kind of guy than I am.
Now I want people to know about you, the human being. That's important.
Yes. So I like I said, we were in I wasn't very observant. In the 5th grade, my parents decided to take me out of the Jewish day school that I was in, put me in a public school. And that made me start thinking of my own Jewish identity. And pretty much that was like a year, 2, 3 before my bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah is the 13-year-old birthday when you pretty much confirm your Jewish identity. That's in general, that's when you're supposed to take upon yourself the commandments and the commitments of being a Jew. Unfortunately, in secular America, that's usually your last stop as a Jew.
When you went to public school,
yes,
did you have any anti-Semitism going into public school, or was it mostly Jewish people, or a mixed multitude?
It wasn't so much of a multitude, but you're knowledgeable to know that in New York, even in the public schools, it was mostly Jewish people, or at least that's what I remember. But there were also different kinds of people over there. Once I was in 5th grade, so I was like, I'm a friendly guy, but at some point I remember some kid in my class started beating me up. And I said, "What are you beating up for? We're friends." But I don't think it was an anti-Semitic beating up. Kids beat each other up. That's unfortunately, you don't have to be Jewish to be beat up in school.
That's true. It's just boys being boys, I guess.
Maybe. So I don't remember any of that kind of anti-Semitic kind of stuff going on, but I didn't need a personal anti-Semitic attack on my person to feel that we Jews, everybody hates us basically. And that was not something that I didn't say that every morning. Oh boy, I have to go out and face who knows which one of those people in Queens is going to murder me today because I'm a Jew. That wasn't what it was. But on the other hand, we knew what the Holocaust, of course, was, which was not, of course. I was raised in the '60s. In the '50s, it wasn't talked about so much. Again, in the '50s, can you close the door, honey? In the '50s, you either you were yourself a survivor of the Holocaust, or you were not, but you didn't really want to talk about it. You know what I mean?
I understand.
By the '60s, we were already talking about it. We had the Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Memorial Day. And again, in my family, we didn't talk about it that much, but it was like there. It was like very much there. And that's just the Holocaust. You had the Crusades and the pogroms. These are words that I don't know how much a little kid in America who's not Jewish has ever heard of the word pogrom. But by us, it was just part of it. And again, it's not like I had participated as I'd been the victim but it was just there. Jews, anti-Semitism is a thing. As soon as you hear the word anti-Semitism as a child, as a Jewish child, you don't have to say, Daddy, what's the problem? Everybody's nice around here. You like know that, okay, right now everybody's nice. We never know how long that's going to last, but for sure for 2,000 years, it hasn't always been that way. We're recording this just a few days before Passover. One of the more famous songs of the Passover evening ritual telling, the Haggadah, is V'hi Shamda Lavotenu V'lanu. And this is the thing that stood for us, that is a truth. That Shelo Echad Bilvad Amad Leinu Chaltenu. Not only in one time in our history did people try to destroy us, but in each and every generation they tried to destroy us. We say that every Passover. The end of that song is, but God saved us from his hand. So if you believe in God, then I guess you say, okay. I mean, I guess if there's a pogrom going on outside while you're saying this, it's a little harder to believe that. But certainly the fact that we have a long history of generation after generation of anti-Semitism. It's not something that I have to be a master's or a doctorate degree academic to be able to know that. I just know it.
Can I comment on that for a moment?
Sure.
Of course, I'm a Christian minister and been a Bible teacher to our Christian world for a long time.
Uh-huh.
And I often tell the Christian friends and students, wherever I'm teaching, is what you just said, that Jewish people live with that psychological concept of that their whole life.
We're crazy.
And that this is something that Jewish people live with that Christians are not even aware of.
Oblivious.
And so it's one of the reasons why we have historically had such a difficult time communicating and talking and making friends with each other. Right. And so there's a Jewish phrase that when I first learned it years ago, it really struck in my heart.
Yes.
And it goes like this: how can you say you love me if you don't know where I hurt? And the Christian world and the Jewish world have been so separated for so long. Right. We both have our own places of wounds and hurts, but of course, the more obvious corporate one and community-wide one is what you're just talking about.
Yes.
So it's very, very important for Christian people to study the history of Judeo-Christianity. It's not a pretty history, but it is what it is. And we need to study history so we won't make the same mistakes all over again, which we seem to do all the time. We don't learn very much from our own selves. So it's time for Jews and Christians to find those who are like-minded, that they feel they can trust, and enter into a relationship of mutual respect and unconditional love.
Amen.
And leave the issues that are weightier than the finite human mind to discern to the Almighty, and let him work it out for us.
I'll say I'm into that. I will even say we don't need to only leave the topics that are, how did you say, difficult for the human mind to discern. How about just the uncomfortable ones? On our first date, we don't have to talk about the hardest things. You know what I mean? Let's just get to know each other, be positive, and try to talk to each other like that. I think that's that's the way I deal with everybody. There's one guy. Well, whatever. I just wanted to mention one thing in our half hour is coming up here. I'd like to keep these conversations at a half hour, at least to begin with, or at least today. You mentioned how this phrase that you heard, how can you say you love me if you don't know what hurts me? Is that what you said?
If you don't know where I hurt.
Where I hurt.
Right.
So today is the 10th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan. It's a few days to Passover. I saw somewhere that yesterday, the 9th day of the month, was the Yortzeit, the I don't know how to say it in English, the annual day of the passing of somebody. A birthday is the same day of the month every year that you were born on, or somebody was born on. So what is the day of the month every year that somebody else died? What is that called? The anniversary of their death, I guess. So the anniversary of the death of an important rabbi by the name of Rabbi Aryeh Levin. I highly recommend people to look him up. He was the tzaddik, the righteous man of Jerusalem. Rabbi Aryeh, A-R-I-E or A-R-Y-E, Levin, L-E-V-I-N, Aryeh Levin. It'll come up first on Google, I assure you. He's the most famous Aryeh Levin is not it's not a name that very few people have, like Gidon Ariel. It's more like Moshe Cohen. But even still, he's by far the most famous Aryeh Levin, no question about it. He was a genuine righteous person. He was just a tzaddik. He was just a great man. He loved everyone and everybody loved him. So the reason I'm bringing him up is because one of the hundreds of famous stories that is told about him that was written in a book called A Tzaddik in Our Time, a righteous person in our time, was that when he went with his wife to the doctor. And the doctor said, yes, how can I help you? And he said, my wife's foot is hurting us. So there was no question that he loved his wife and he knew where it was hurting her. But it wasn't that, how can you say that you love me if you don't know where it hurts?
Where I hurt.
Since you love me so much, you know where I hurt, on the positive aspect.
Very good. Very good.
So I'm very glad to have mentioned Rabbi Aryeh on this day of his commemoration. Now, we've barely even introduced you, and we got to get moving over here. So I will just do a little, as they say, housekeeping. We will, with God's help, run a live YouTube broadcast. We'll see if it'll work out. We'll try to see if we can do this every week at this time of day on Tuesday, right? Looks like that'll be okay.
That would be fine.
And we will, anybody who's watching this, hopefully we'll do this for a long time because we got a lot to talk about. And you're entitled to, you're invited to tune in. If you want to tune in while it's live, if you know how that works, I'm sure I'll figure that out after a little while if somebody asks. And of course, we are going to be archived on Root Source. We will be publishing these talks, I hope, on our blog at root-source.com, and we will be sharing them on our weekly newsletter. For now, it's a weekly newsletter. And I hope that you, Richard, will also share it with your friends, and your friends can come in and watch it on the Root Source YouTube channel or on our website, on our blog. And that's it for today. How's that, sir?
I can't wait to hear what happened when you were 14 and made Aliyah. We haven't even gotten to your 14th birthday yet.
That's the way it goes. Anyway, thank you very, very much. Looking forward to spending much more time with you. You are one of my best friends, and we've only met a few hours ago, as it were.
Lehitraot.
Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye.